Everybody, welcome. I'm so glad that you came tonight to join me. I know it's a beautiful day outside, and I hope you got out in it and put your face up to the sun and breathed in some nice fresh air. And I'm glad that you came back inside just to join me for probably 40 minutes is what this will be. But I just wanted to show that first screen about what I do. I'm an applied functional medicine coach. I've been training with the School of Applied Functional Medicine out of Sudbury, Massachusetts, and I'm also a licensed massage therapist. And I'll put my information up again at the end. So tonight is just a talk about stress, and I've set up with the library to talk about stress tonight and just different ways to manage it and how it affects our body. And then every 2 weeks, we're going to do a different topic. And we will talk a little bit about this in relation to what's going on right now. But let's say that COVID-19 never happened, that there would still be stress in our life. So this is applicable always. But I think right now the whole world collectively is feeling some stress, just a little bit. Yeah, so these have been stressful times, correct? So unprecedented times. Surely this pandemic is so unique in that it is happening to the entire world all at once. There is uncertainty and fear about this virus. There is unknown things about the virus. New information is coming out every day. We hear different things. So there's a lot of unknown, and a lot of stress can arise from just the unknown itself. There's stress about work, about money, educational worries, moms at home trying to juggle little children and trying to homeschool them. So, what are we to do with all of this? Also, there's the toilet paper, right? We all got stressed about that. So there was an article that my friend Cindy sent me when this all began, and it was wonderful. I think it was from the Boston Globe or somewhere, but it did an analogy about what was going on with this virus and then the 5 stages of grief, which some of you might be familiar with. So when someone close to us dies, or let's say we get a bad diagnosis, these are the 5 stages of grief that humans go through: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So for me, this pandemic has felt like these 5 stages of grief. I've definitely felt all of these stages personally. In the beginning, I really didn't think it was going to be as bad as everyone was saying, and I poo-pooed it a little bit. I'm just being honest with you. Then there was anger, anger that in the beginning, it seemed horrible that my 40th high school reunion got canceled. Now that's like, whatever, who cares, right? But at the time, it was right in the beginning. My son's not going to have a graduation. My son has to pick a college without being able to see a school. Then it got more serious, right? Then there's people getting sick, people that we know getting sick. A woman in one of my meetings that I attend on a weekly basis, she was one of the first people to die in Maine. Wow. Yeah, so anger, right? And then the bargaining. Well, if I wear my mask and I wash my hands, can I still go walk with my friends? Says my son. Can we still drive the same car if I spray Lysol on him? They're the bargaining, right? We all did it to a different degree, I think, in the beginning. And then a little depression. So I don't know about anyone else, but in the beginning, when this happened and it was like this collective thing, cortisol, gets released in your body when you're stressed. And I don't know about you, but I was living on adrenaline in the beginning. I scrubbed my house more than I ever have in my life. I'm washing everything that came in my house. I was hyper vigilant. I had all this energy. I was on top of it. But then, after a week or so, that falls away, that initial adrenaline surge that we all get. And I thought I was doing okay. And then I would just start crying, or I just would get teary. And I'm like, man, this really stinks, And I got sad. And not just for me, because I'm okay. My husband has an income. My kids are healthy. We're healthy. But sad for the world, right? Sad for everything that's happening right now. And just every day you'd hear another thing about weddings being canceled and just different, everyone collectively has losses and they're not comparable. So I don't know if you know about Brene Brown, but she talks about comparable suffering, and that it's not that my son's sadness over not being able to graduate can't be acknowledged because someone up in Portland is dying in the hospital. They're both sad and they're both valid. And then comes acceptance, which I think most of us have moved into. Okay, this thing is going to have its way with us, right? It's going to have its way. It's novel, it's new, and we just need to wash our hands and not touch our face. So those are the 5 stages of grief. I definitely felt that maybe you can relate to that. So what are we to do with all of this uncertainty about the virus, about a vaccine, about is it going to come back? Is our life ever going to get back to normal? All that stuff. So this is a little thing on the bottom that I really believe in, that 10% of life is what happens to us, right? We lose our job, we might get sick, something happens, life happens, but 90% of life is how we respond to it. And I say that just because I really believe that is the only control we have other than our own. I like to think of a hula hoop around us, right? That's what we have, and that's our control area, and anything outside of that, we don't really have control over. So the only thing I can control is how am I going to choose to respond to this? That is sort of how I roll. So let's talk about the stress response. So that little tiger, I'm sorry it's blurry, but I thought it was cute. I was trying to find like a caveman picture of a tiger, but so our bodies were built to have this stress response. It was set up to protect us from danger. So long ago when humans were in danger, the fight or flight response worked great because it allowed us to flee and run away to safety. And today this response is triggered from physical stress or mental stress. It doesn't matter which one. The body's response is the same. Oh, I lost my place in my head, sorry. So the body's response is the same no matter what, whether it's physical or mental stress. Our sympathetic nervous system triggers the release of a hormone called cortisol, which I'm sure you've all heard about, and it helps our body deal with this threat. What happens when we have this acute stress response is this, everyone knows about your sympathetic nervous system, so adrenal glands release the adrenaline and the noradrenaline, and blood sugar increases in our body. Also, it causes our heart rate to go up, our blood pressure and our breathing to become rapid. Our digestive system kind of shuts down, the juices slow down and peristalsis stops, and the blood sugar goes to our brain so we can focus. Our pupils become dilated and blood goes to our skeletal muscles so we can run away. So does that make sense? If we're running from a tiger, right, and it's back in the day, we don't need to be digesting our food. We don't need to be doing anything than getting out of there, fleeing to safety. So that's the acute stress response. So now, living in our day, we're not running from tigers and lions and bears usually, but we do have stress. And many people live under a sustained amount of stress, like it just always under a stressful situation. They are not able to deal with it in a good way, and they are feeling this constant assault on their body. So having your body release cortisol and all those things that we just mentioned on the other page, this causes so much wear and tear on your system, on your organs in your body. The digestive issues that come up, I don't know, you've probably heard of irritable bowel syndrome, but that is definitely a term given by gastroenterologists to a myriad of different intestinal problems. So, you know, Sally might have pain and gas and burning, and Ralph might have bloating and something else. Like you could have many different, but they put it under the same umbrella when they don't really know what's going on, and it's really thought of to come from stress, definitely. So after prolonged stress, the bodies get exhausted and downstream issues arise, such as weight gain and digestive issues, sickness, hypertension, sleep problems, to name a few. Calories get stored as fat because cortisol is a stress hormone, and it's telling your body, this is not cool, something not good is going on. So instead of using those calories, they store them as fat more and more so they can be used at a future date when you're not in danger anymore, because your body doesn't know whether you're having a horrible time at work and your husband is sick or whether a tiger is chasing you. So does that make sense? Your body responds the same way. So years like this will eventually lead to autoimmune disease. The heart rate stays up, blood pressure remains elevated, the stress hormones continue to get released, and over time, you increase your odds of heart attack, stroke, and hypertension. And even with the blood sugar being raised and everything else, this can lead to even more things like insulin resistance and diabetes. There's a lot of downstream effects of stress over a long period of time. So when they say stress kills or stress causes disease and problems, this is how it happens, because our bodies were meant to be under that kind of cortisol release, fight or flight thing for a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, maybe a few weeks, but after that, we're not supposed to be in that state anymore. And autoimmune disease, so when your immune system is under continual stress like this, autoimmune disease will just pick a victim. So people seem to think that like MS is a problem with your myelin sheath, or that diabetes is a problem with your blood sugar, or, and so forth. But really, the autoimmune response, your immune system just cranking and cranking and cranking, just goes to its weakest link. Does that make sense? It'll go to where you're weak. And so in one person, it'll be an MS, in one other person, it'll be diabetes, and someone else, it'll be something else. And that is sort of how autoimmune diseases happen. And they're at epidemic levels in our country today. And it's caused by our environment and stress, nothing else. They're not inherited. They may be some genetic predisposition, which makes you weaker in that area, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it. You're going to get it if those genes get flipped on because of, how your life is or what you're eating and exposing yourself to. I don't know if that makes any sense. So common responses to stress. I don't know about anybody else, but when this all happened, I was a little stressed out, and I'm Miss Healthy, whatever, but I drink, here on the weekend or whatever. I started having a drink every single night. And then my daughter came home from Brooklyn, and she's a vegan chef, and she was cooking for us. We went through 2 huge bottles of olive oil in 1 month. I don't even know where they went, but they went in my body somewhere. She's cooking sauces and vegan cheeses, and we're drinking every night. Like, oh, let's have a drink, let's have wine, we were dealing, and we were also working out, and we were getting to the beach, but we were numbing and dealing with this in not the healthiest of ways, which I know in the beginning probably was a lot of people's responses, but then I had to back way off and just stop, because I'm like, this is not going to help me. So drinking more alcohol, right? Well, coffee and alcohol dehydrate you, for one thing. Alcohol is also a depressant. I'm sure many of you know that, as is marijuana. Eating refined, processed food, which I call broken food versus whole food, sets the blood sugar up to be you get crashes in your blood sugar, but also sugar suppresses your immune system and reduces your body's ability to ward off getting sick. So when you're eating chips and Fritos and sugar and anything, bread and potatoes and whatever else, all of that translates into sugar in your body. Sitting in front of the TV, zoning out. I mean, we've all had our share of doing that a little bit, but sitting in front of the television for hours depletes your immune system. So the hours that you spend in front of a TV or a computer screen or lounging around on the couch on your phone, that kind of lifestyle has been linked to diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and even early death. So they said, make sure to get up and have breaks every 30 minutes if you're sitting at a computer. Step outside, take a breath of fresh air. And they think that like 60 to 70 minutes of exercise daily is thought to be enough to counter those negative effects of sitting in front of a computer all day. And of course, isolation. so sad. They have definitely linked loneliness and isolation from, there's a lot of people that are alone right now and don't have anyone around. That has been linked to increased disease and heart disease and a lot of things. It's amazing the studies you can find on loneliness and disease. But isolating, you could isolate with a house full of people that you're quarantining with, right? We all know that we don't need to be alone to be alone. Not reaching out to friends, not talking about how you're feeling. Not exercising, too much sitting, which we talked about, and obsessive thinking. So I don't know about you, but does anyone relate to the gerbil cage in your mind? So if something's going around in your head that you're worried about, like, oh my God, I've lost my job. What if I don't get another job? I don't know, and money and and so all these things that are in our people's minds right now, or even just like, what about the fall? What about school? My son's probably worried about that. Doing mental gymnastics around issues that we have no control over doesn't get us anywhere, right? Because there's not like a worry bank that you're making deposits into that you can withdraw from later. All it's going to do is make you sick and make you more stressed. So I was always told to change a muscle, move a muscle, change your mind. So when I get like that, I have tools that I use. You know, some people might have a spiritual practice, so I might pray about it. I might talk it out with somebody and share it with someone else. I might journal about it. I get outside. I exercise. I go for a walk. I be of service to somebody else. Any of those things can get me out of that obsessive thinking spiral that does no one any good. It doesn't get us anywhere. It's like being on that treadmill, you know. 2 hours later, you're still right there. Okay, so positive ways, I don't know if you can hear, but my cat's snoring right next to me. Positive ways that we can respond to stressful times, which makes me realize I didn't put the animals in here. There's a few things I didn't put in here. There are so many wonderful ways that we can deal with stress. So first one is mindful breathing or box breathing. And anybody at the very end of this who clicks on a link, and if you give me your email, I have a stress relieving handout to send to everybody that has all these techniques on them, has links to different things, meditations, different studies. So if you want at the end, definitely put your email in and I'll get that to you. But box breathing, and that's one of the links I have, but that's just simply breathing in, 4 counts, holding 4 counts, and then breathing out 5 counts. And doing that for 1, 2, 3 minutes, as long as you need. So deep breathing like that decreases your stress and anxiety. It tells your nervous system to calm down and brings all that beautiful oxygen into your cells. So that's such a good thing to do when you're feeling stressed. Meditation. So guided meditation, which you can do on an app like the Calm app, or just quiet meditation by yourself. It took me 20 years of trying to be able to meditate. And now I can sit quietly with nothing and meditate. Once I'm in for 5 or 10 minutes, I can go for 45 minutes with absolutely no noise. That took a very long time. But meditation actually affects the body in the exact opposite way that stress does. So it triggers our rest and digest or parasympathetic nervous system response, which restores the body to a nice calm state. So this is when the body actually repairs itself and also wards away any more physical effects of any other stress that we're under. So it's a wonderful thing. Fresh air and sunshine, right? We all know about this. Sunshine gives our body all that wonderful vitamin D that we need. If you're able to walk by the ocean, the salt air is a known energy shifter. It has to do with the ions, but it actually improves your mood. If you're in a city, maybe just walking around the neighborhood and heading to maybe your local park, just looking around, observing nature, definitely brings peace to me. I don't know about anyone else, but nature is where I get filled up. So beautiful sunshine, fresh air. And now yoga or Tai Chi. yoga has been enjoying a lot of popularity for the last 5 years or whatever, but yoga is definitely, I think what the whole point about yoga and Tai Chi is actually makes you have internal, be able to manage your stress better internally. So that goes back to what I said about how we respond. 90% is how we respond to stuff. These activities actually let you experience better control over your response. So does that make some sense? Also mindfulness with yoga and Tai Chi, very good with mindfulness. So exercise, right? Moving your body. This is it's called nature's morphine. It releases endorphins into your system. So this is just whether you're taking a brisk walk or maybe you're doing a workout online or going for a run, but the benefits physiologically are the same. So these are natural painkillers, endorphins that come into your system. It also improves your sleep, right? Which in turn reduces your stress. So that's wonderful. So gratitude. In that piece of paper at the end that you can sign up to get, I have a study that actually shows the correlation between gratitude and your immune system. And I thought that was so amazing. So I'll give that to you later and you can read it, but they showed people that practice have a regular gratitude practice have better immunity. So stay off the news. The next one, limit social media time.
Yeah, sure.
Also limit time on social media and the news. Maybe schedule 10 minutes twice a day to check your news feed. Remove the notifications from your smartphone. And otherwise try to stay off. You know, if you need to check in with the news once in a while, great. But watching that 24/7 news cycle and having it on while you eat, I mean, talk about causing indigestion, right? Watching the news while you eat, or if that's the first thing that you're filling your mind with when you wake up, and be the last thing before you go to bed. I don't know about you, but I haven't watched the news any time recently where it was a pleasant experience. So limit your screen time, try to stay off. Hold on here. Stay connected to family and friends. So staying connected during this time, I think, to your extended family and to your friends is so important. As I said before, that isolation and loneliness just add to all this stress, and sustained loneliness definitely has been linked to heart disease, high blood pressure, cognitive decline, and also depression. And they have found that helping others, this is the next thing. Yeah, so reaching out and being service to others. Helping others actually makes us feel good, as we all know. We release endorphins when we are being service to others and helping other people. It has been shown that those who help others on a regular basis experience less depression, are calmer, and have better health. Part of this is because it distracts us from our own worries. It gives us a sense of belonging, and I think that's something that we all crave as humans. And it keeps our own situation in perspective, which I think is always really good. And I think it definitely has a ripple effect, prompting people to want to pay it forward. You know, they say kindness is contagious. So, you know, they say for every act someone does of kindness, like if you pay for the person behind you at the drive-through, then that next person does something nice for someone else. Or if you hold the door open for someone, that person that you held it open for is more likely to let the car out in front of them when they're driving. It's just sort of a contagious, wonderful thing. And another thing would be just to remind ourselves again what we can and cannot control. So spending time worrying on all those things, right, that we don't have any control over, doesn't do any good, and finally will catch up with you. This is my favorite one. I left for the last one. Watch something funny, uplifting, and laugh. So when my mom was sick, she was sick with cancer and she didn't make it. But one of the first things she did, this is back in the day of cassettes, she got some comedians and we would listen to those and we would laugh so hard. I don't know if anyone remembers Norman Cousins, but he showed us like decades ago about all the wonderful effects of laughter, and he reversed his disease process through laughter. And and I'm talking like belly laughing, you know? So watching old funny clips of your favorite comedies. We like to watch the Carol Burnett Show and funny things like that. You can watch stand-up comedians on YouTube. We also, I scroll through really funny videos on Instagram, watching a funny movie, anything like that. The Mayo Clinic actually mentioned in an article that how laughter changes your body, literally, like so on the short term, it stimulates your organs, it brings in oxygen, releases endorphins into your system. They said a good hearty bout of laughing actually activates, then relieves your stress response. So when you go into a real deep belly laughter, you activate your stress response. So people may not know, but your body doesn't know the difference between good stress and bad stress. So if you're going down a roller coaster or doing something fun like that, that you still have that adrenaline surge. You have the same response in your body. But when it's something pleasant, like the roller coaster, for me, when it stops, or a funny movie or something silly, now after that initial stress response happens, your body relieves the stress response and you become more relaxed than you were before. It also stimulates muscle relaxation, but on the long term, this is really cool. So if you just expose yourself to laughing and fun and humorous things on a regular basis, it actually improves your immune system. Negative thoughts manifest into chemical reactions that can affect our bodies. So if we are laughing, it shifts everything. So you're not thinking about negative, worrisome thoughts when you're watching Lucille Ball put the chocolate candies in her mouth off the conveyor belt, right? You just aren't. You're just focused on Lucy being silly. So that sort of shifts everything in our body. It's known to relieve pain due to the ongoing release of endorphins, and regular laughter decreases depression and anxiety. So that's probably an obvious thing. So the two that aren't on here are pets, right? Spending time with your pet, just going for a walk, sitting down and just petting your dog, petting your cat. And the other thing that I will add to this when I alter it would be to have a spiritual practice. Some people have no spiritual practice, and that's fine, but some of us do. And so that also can be very soothing and give us a lot of comfort in times of stress. All right, so other things which will help is a good night's sleep. Sleep issues are one of the most common complaints, right, that I've been hearing about during this time. I've helped so many people in the last 2 months with their sleeping issues, and they're multifaceted. But people are stressed and they're not finding it easy to fall asleep or stay asleep. They wake up in the middle of the night, they have racing thoughts. And the other is fueling our body with good, whole nutrition. So my next presentation on June 2nd is on sleep, it's called sleep hygiene, which might be new to some of you. And it's important, especially during this time. You've probably seen it more in the mainstream media, but there's a definite link between melatonin and blocking the downward cascade of this infection in people's lungs when they do get COVID. And melatonin occurs in our body naturally, but they are suggesting supplementing with a non-synthetic extended release melatonin every day, whether you're sleeping well or not, because it's really showing to interrupt that downward inflammation process in the lungs. And then again, on June 16th, my talk will be about nutrition and your health and your immune system. So I felt like I just talked the whole time. I don't know if there's any questions. Here is the link. I'm going to leave this here for a minute. And if you email me, or if you even, maybe there's a chat box they can put something in if you're not able to copy and paste that link. But that's where you go to put your email in to get my handout on the stress relievers. And then you'll get all the things we talked about tonight and some extra stuff, some extra wonderful little links and ideas. And that's pretty much it. And this is back to here. So I'm going to see if there's any questions.
So, okay, chat.
I'll stop sharing.